Pick one out, huh? President Trump set to take his place in history tonight when he delivers his first State of the Union address in prime time. The White House promising a unifying message that will embody the American spirit, set to cover a lot of territory as well. As we say on this Tuesday, good morning. Big show for you today. I'm Bill Hemmer, live inside of America's Newsroom. How you doing?
An important day for the president, an important day for this country. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sandra Smith. Final touches are now being put on the president's speech, a speech President Trump hopes will strike a bipartisan, unifying tone on critical issues.
I hope it's going to be good. We worked on it hard to cover a lot of territory, including our great success with the markets and with the tax cut. And it's a big speech, an important speech. We cover immigration, and for many years, many years, they've been talking immigration. They never got anything done. We're going to get something done.
But the big speech tonight comes amid a whirlwind in Washington as the House Intel Committee votes to make that classified memo on alleged Obama-era surveillance abuses public.
So we have Team Fox coverage now. Peter Ducey's live on the Hill. Byron York, Chris Starwalt standing by with analysis. But we begin at the White House with Kevin Corke to kick off this hour. Kevin, good morning there.
And good morning, my friend. You are right on the money. Final preparations underway for this evening's address right here at the White House. Now, you may have heard yesterday during the afternoon at some point the president did rehearse over in the map room, and we are told he will once again rehearse here at the White House, even as speechwriters continue to tweak some of the finer points of this evening's address. Now, as previously mentioned, the president will focus on 5 major points: jobs in the economy, immigration, infrastructure, national security, and, of course, trade. Also attending tonight's speech as guests of the First Lady are the parents of a pair of girls who were chased down, and unfortunately they were victims of the vicious gang MS-13. These folks are Elizabeth Alvarado and Robert Mickens, Evelyn Rodriguez and Freddie Cuevas. They're the parents of Nisa and Kayla, the girls killed by the MS-13 gang. White House officials, meanwhile, say that the speech will not only talk about the effort to protect Americans and to promote our values, it will also focus on the idea that America's back.
People will be very uplifted tonight. It's a very positive speech. The First Lady has put together a group of guests tonight, and many of them will be mentioned as part of the president's address.
As you understand how these things go here at the White House, we're always looking for excerpts. What can you tell me? What will the president say? Well, at some point we suspect we'll get those during the day, and as soon as I get a line or two, I promise I'll pass them along to you, my friend.
I know you will. Thank you, Kevin Corke, leading our coverage this hour at the White House. Thank you, sir.
Meanwhile, that controversial Obama surveillance memo now sits on the president's desk after the House Intel Committee voted to make it public. The president has 5 days to make that decision, and Congressman Trey Gowdy says if it were up to Democrats, we wouldn't know half of what we've been learning about the FBI.
If it were up to Adam Schiff, you wouldn't know about Hillary Clinton's email. You wouldn't know about the server. You wouldn't know who paid for the dossier. So I do find it ironic that he has his own memo now, because if it were up to him, we wouldn't know any of it.
Peter Ducey is live on Capitol Hill with the latest there. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Sandra. Tonight's State of the Union will not be a big reveal of this memo that Republicans believe will spotlight Obama-era abuses of law enforcement tools. In fact, it may be a few days before anybody has any idea what's in it.
He has up to 5 days. I think the process, we have to introduce it on the House floor. So if the House is out of session, we would need to wait until we're back in session to make that happen.
With that comes a new warning from the Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi, who's out with this statement. Chairman Nunes's memo contains significant inaccuracies and omissions that misrepresent the underlying intelligence and jeopardize the effectiveness of our intelligence and law enforcement communities. But now her Republican colleagues are pointing out that Democrats have been calling for the release of a controversial document, too.
It's about transparency. It's about the truth. A lot of Americans have a question, how was this dossier used, if at all?
Still, Democrats are not sure that the Nunes memo is going to make sense unless it is also released with all of the classified intelligence that was used to compile it. So now, Illinois Democrat Congressman Mike Quigley describes the document like this. He says it's a book report by a high school kid at 1 a.m. on 2 Red Bulls who haven't read the book. So Democrats are trying very hard to cast this memo as insignificant because they think it is a Republican attempt to undermine Russia investigations. Sandra?
Good stuff, Peter. Thank you.
Nothing against Red Bull, right? Joke. Byron York, chief political correspondent, Washington Examiner, Fox News politics editor, Chris Tarbell. Gentlemen, good day to both of you.
Good morning, brother.
If you're a Republican, are you ready for the money bite? This is Dana Perino with Mitch McConnell from yesterday. Here is how he characterized the last year for Republicans. Watch.
2017 was the best year for conservatives in the 30 years that I've been here. The best year on all fronts. And a lot of people are shocked because we didn't know what we were getting with Donald Trump. He was doing fundraisers for Chuck Schumer 3 or 4 years ago. But this has turned out to be a very solid, conservative, right-of-center, pro-business administration, and we're seeing the results of it.
He was doing fundraisers for Chuck Schumer, Chris, 3 or 4 years ago. He just characterized 2017 as the best year for him in his congressional history. What do you think of that?
And why not? And if you think about it this way, the concern that Republicans had about Donald Trump a year, even it's still a year ago, would he be true? Would he stick with them? Would he govern as a conservative as president? And after something of a rocky start at the beginning of last year, he definitely came to understand or came to see that Leader McConnell, House Speaker Paul Ryan had a blueprint, had a way to get through and get him to some successes and get some wins. Now, tonight we're going to find out whether he's going to try to broaden that out and be bipartisan and do that other stuff. Or is he going to stay? Or is he going to stay with his homeboys?
Okay, in a manner of speaking. Byron, draft off of that.
Well, first of all, a lot of what the president did that Republicans liked in 2017 was using his own executive powers. He not only used Congress, which helped on a number of things and obviously passed the big tax cut, but he used his executive powers to do the kind of things in terms of deregulation and judicial appointments that Republicans wanted a Republican president to do. And as far as tonight is concerned, I think, they've sent plenty of signals of what they're going to talk about. And I think if you look at the guest list, the people that are included sitting with the First Lady tonight, you'll see what he's going to talk about. You'll see couples, working class couples who are going to use their tax cut benefits to try to send their children to school or expand their business. You'll see those victims of families of victims of MS-13, and you'll see members of the military who've done heroic things in Iraq and Syria. So immigration, the military, and his tax cuts in the economy, there it is.
Yeah, and patriotism, too. I mean, that's what I'm starting to pick up based on these excerpts. Sarah Sanders on the 4-page memo. She said this about releasing it.
Any specifics, I can tell you none of this decision was made by that of the White House, and any specifics, I would refer you to the FBI.
So that is Andrew McCabe. He's now out of a job. Chris, when do we see this, or do we?
Well, the division within the administration relates to how much harm the release of the memo might do to the government's ability to protect us, basically. Are there dangers here that in order to make their point, Nunes and company could expose the intelligence gathering process? So this isn't about the politics of it so much as legitimate concerns from the national security community about, is this going to do more harm than good?
Byron, where are we?
Well, this is the president's decision, not the Justice Department's decision, the president's decision himself. And look, if it were not for the State of the Union, I think we'd see it right now. I think they're holding off a little bit to not step on the president's big message tonight. Maybe they'll hold off on it tomorrow. But I think by the end of the week, we will definitely see this. And if you talk to Republicans who actually drafted this memo, they say they were very careful to not include information that they believed would be damaging to national security. So talk to the Republicans and they will say, no, releasing this will not hurt the United
Byron,
States.
my guess is Thursday. Would you agree with that?
I think that would be probably a good bet for you.
Chris, is this an earthquake?
Which one?
The memo.
No. I mean, maybe. Who knows? I haven't seen it. But this is part of what's going on right now as Mueller reaches the terminal phase of his investigation. The Inspector General who's looking into that's the real investigation here, is the Inspector General looking into what went on inside the Justice Department vis-a-vis the Hillary Clinton investigation. Those are all hot questions. Those are all real. I think we are reaching the point now that whatever they come up with in Congress each side is going to dismiss what the other side said. It's so partisan at this point. I don't think anybody's going to listen. We got to wait for the pros to come in with answers that I think
Byron,
people are going to pay attention to.
You agree with that, Byron, or no?
Well, I think we're going to see in the next few weeks, we're going to see dueling memos. Obviously, this Republican memo is going to be made public, and I do think that some version of the Democratic counter memo is also going to be made public, and I think the public deserves this. They deserve to see the best case that Devin Nunes can make and the best case that Adam Schiff can make. I think it's really important for everybody to see
Good stuff.
Both memos.
Byron, thank you so much. Chris, thanks to you as well, gentlemen. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the evening there in Washington, D.C. You bet. Thanks, Sandra.
And you can keep it right here for live team coverage leading up to tonight's State of the Union address. We will have coverage and analysis all day and all evening leading up to the big event, which starts at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And I guess it's safe to assume that the president's working on his speech as we speak. He's already done a run through. Yeah. We've been told, but probably making some last minute tweaks.
I love watching TV on a night like tonight. Yeah. I watch every channel. I see all the analysis. I encourage our viewers at home, check us out in prime time later tonight. I think it's very interesting.
Big moment.
Entertaining and important. So tonight, big focus tonight will be the immigration reform matter. We're hearing the president will make it clear he's willing to work with Democrats, but will they work with him? Senator Bob Corker about where things stand today on that. Plus this.
This committee voted to put the president's personal interest, perhaps their own political interest, above the national interest.
Democrats blasting the House Intel Committee vote to make public a classified FISA memo. But Republican Congressman Brad Wenstrup sits on that committee. He will respond in moments.
Also, the president getting ready again for State of the Union tonight following a year of strong economic growth and record numbers on Wall Street. The RNC chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel, and White House senior advisor, Mercedes Schlapp, will both be here coming up live. Stay tuned.
Democrats made a huge mistake on all voting against this tax cut because their constituents are already benefiting. This is why the president said in Davos, and he'll carry that theme in tonight, which is we're open for business.
For many years, they've been talking immigration. They never got anything done. We're going to get something done. We hope it's got to be bipartisan because the Republicans really don't have the votes to get it done in any other way. So it has to be bipartisan, but hopefully the Democrats will join us, or enough of them will join us, so we can really do something great for DACA and for immigration generally.
So where are we now, huh? President Trump saying he's not giving up on that deal just yet, expected to make it clear tonight. He's willing to compromise on issues like the Dreamers. But will the president get a buy-in from Democrats? Will he get a buy-in from conservative Republicans in the House? Republican Senator Bob Corker, chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, with me now. And Senator, welcome back and good morning to you. It's going to be a big day and a big night here. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, Bill, it is going to be a big day. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. Take us behind the curtain. Okay. Where are things now? What should we understand about negotiations between your Democratic colleagues and Republicans?
Well, what's happened, Bill, in order to keep 30 people from trying to negotiate a deal, John Cornyn and Dick Durbin have been assigned to synthesize all the things that people are bringing forth. I sat in on a meeting last night with, about 20 legislators on both sides of the aisle, and my sense is people are starting with the lowest common denominator. Could we at least deal with DACA and security as a baseline, and then expand out to deal with some of the other issues? As you know, Mitch McConnell's going to put a bill on the floor, and it's going to be amendable, and I think that, probably the best way to start, again, would be that with that lowest common denominator, and then see what can pass from that point on.
Well,
but I do think
what's the lowest common denominator, then? Just to define that first.
So it would be dealing with the DACA plus all of the border security.
So that's chain migration, that's visa lottery, that's border security, that's funding for the wall, and it's the 1.8 million Dreamers, right? That's your baseline.
Actually, yeah, the baseline is even narrower. I think the president has put out a very good proposal, okay? And I think that, dealing with chain migration is something that is very, very important for us to do, or we end up back in this situation. The question is, what is it that we can get 60 votes on? So again, what I've heard is a huge move on the left, willingness to accept $25 billion worth of border security, which is a significant move from where they have been. And I say on the left, it's actually the more moderate members of the Democratic caucus. And then obviously a willingness on the Republican side to deal with the DACA recipients in a way that is appropriate. And then can you build out from there, Bill, to make it even more comprehensive than that? But I see good progress.
It's
and
a big
I think
lift.
we got, huh?
Yeah. You think you get what?
How many votes?
No, I stepped on your last line. You think you will get what? You were going to a point there.
Well, I think, again, the lowest common denominator is $25 billion in security, which I think the more moderate members of the Democratic caucus are willing to accept. And then dealing specifically with the DACA population. Then building out from there so that we can hopefully deal with chain migration, deal with the diversity lottery. All of those things would be enhancements that to me would make the bill far, far better. But the question is, what can we get 60 votes on?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the tweet from the president on screen. I've offered DACA a wonderful deal, including a doubling in the number of recipients and a 12-year pathway to citizenship for 2 reasons. Because the Republicans want to fix a long-time terrible problem. To show that Democrats do not want to solve DACA, only use it. Do they want to get to yes or not?
So it's interesting. I think there was a great article this morning, Bill, in one of the publications. I think those people that are running for president in 2020, those people would like to have this as an issue. Those people who are running for re-election in 2018, they want to solve this issue. And so I think what you've got is a split in the Democratic caucus. And my guess is those who want to get something done are going to be the ones that are going to be successful in this effort. So
wow. Wow. That's Washington for you, huh? A place you're leaving in 10 months. Senator, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
I hope
we resolve this.
Thank you, sir. I hope you come back as well. Enjoy the evening. Bob Corker.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sandra.
President Trump has made it clear that America is open for business. And now a bombshell announcement from one of the largest companies in the world, ExxonMobil. The company saying it plans to invest $50 billion right here in the USA. And they are just the latest company to do that, all thanks to the tax cut plan. RNC Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel is here on why the economy has got Republicans feeling strong ahead of tonight's big speech.
I think you're going to hear the kind of speech most presidents hope they can give, wish they could give, which is, we're doing well. We have a lot of things we've accomplished in 2017. Unemployment is at a 17-year low. Economic confidence is at a 17-year high. We just overhauled the entire tax system for the first time in 31 years. We've got a great justice on the Supreme Court. So the president is going to be able to talk about a lot of great things that he got done.
Speaker of the House Paul Ryan saying this morning that this State of the Union address will be one of the most important for Republican presidents only dream about delivering. Joining me now, Ronna McDaniel, chairwoman of the RNC. Fair enough, right? The president is likely to tell us how well things are going 1 year into his presidency. What do you expect from this address tonight?
Well, it's a report card, right? So the president reports back to the American people, what is the state of our nation a year into my presidency? And he gets to say, the state of our union is strong. We have jobs coming to this country. Wages are going up. Unemployment is at a 17-year low. Hispanic unemployment is at an all-time low. African-American unemployment is at an all-time low since it's been recorded. These are such great things to talk about, and he wants to keep that going. So he gets to talk about what he has accomplished, the record, the achievements, and then what are we going to do going forward. And I think he's going to reach across to Democrats and say, think about how much better we could be together.
How do you think that he plans to do that, Ronna? Because that's no simple task. And the White House is being very specific as to saying that this president is going to make an attempt tonight to reach across the aisle, unify what is still a very divided Congress. How can he do that tonight?
Well, he's done it since he's been president. Listen, he's had Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi at the White House when he was trying to sell tax reform and champion that around the country. He went with Joe Donnelly and Heidi Heitkamp to their states. He has included Democrats in every part of the conversation, even now with these immigration talks. But Democrats have rebuffed every attempt to work with this president. And I think it's time now for them to set aside their partisanship and put the American people first. And the president is going to continually reach out to them because he knows how much better we could do if we're working together.
Ronna, it's hard to believe we're about to flip the month on the calendar to February. Here we are in an election year. How would you describe the current state of your party today?
The state of the Republican Party is strong. First of all, for all the reasons I just mentioned, our leader and the state of the economy and the accomplishments we get to run on. But as RNC chair, we've raised record money. We're in 22 states. We're getting ready for these midterms. We know how important it is to keep these majorities so that we continue down the path of prosperity that President Trump has put us on. It is that vital that we keep these midterms, and we are fighting as hard as we can at the RNC and across the nation to keep those majorities.
You have made it very clear you expect the president to take a bit of a victory lap tonight, specifically citing the tax cuts and tax reform that he has imposed that has caused companies to hand out bonuses, give raises, invest more here at home, including ExxonMobil, the latest very large company to announce plans to invest $50 billion back in the United States. The CEO saying that is a direct result of this administration's tax cuts, the corporate rate coming down to 21%. What do you say at this point to Democrats? Because you're hearing this a lot from Nancy Pelosi, even heading into this address from the president tonight, that this plan, it favors the wealthy, it still adds to the deficit. They are still coming down hard on these tax cuts and this tax reform plan by this president.
Well, it shows how out of touch the Democratic Party is. Listen, Nancy Pelosi is calling these $2,000, $3,000 bonuses crumbs. I'm going to tell you, to an average family in this country, $2,000 bonuses are not crumbs. They are blessings and gifts coming into their family, helping them pay their bills. And so it shows how far the Democratic Party has gone to the elite side. They champion the wealthy. The Republican Party is now championing the working class in the middle of this country. And they're going to have to answer for why no Democrat, not one Democrat, voted for these tax cuts. In fact, they're so upset about it that they're actually rooting against them. And they can't say one kind word about these bonuses, the higher wages, the 401ks that are benefiting, or the bigger paychecks that people are going to see in February. So we're going to go to these battleground states, and we're going to talk about these Democrats like Joe Manchin, Joe Donnelly, Heidi Heitkamp, and on. And why did you vote against tax cuts for the middle class of this country?
Lastly, Ronna, will the RNC be giving back those donations made by Steve Wynn? We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of donations to the RNC. He's recently resigned as the finance chair of the RNC due to these sexual harassment and sexual misconduct claims. He's denying all of those, but he has stepped down from the RNC. Are you going to give those back? Sean Spicer last night saying absolutely the RNC should give those back.
So the allegations in the Wall Street Journal were deeply troubling. They were so troubling that within 24 hours, Steve was no longer our finance chair. But Steve has denied these allegations. Unlike Harvey Weinstein and Al Franken and others, Steve has denied them. There is an investigation that's going to take place. He should be allowed due process. And if he is found of any wrongdoing, we will absolutely return 100% of that money. But we're going to let due process take place.
So fair to say there's no plans right now to give those donations back?
We're going to let the investigation take place. We took the allegations seriously enough to remove him as finance chair, and now we're moving forward.
All right, Ronna McDaniel, a big night tonight. We thank you for being here this morning to set it all up for us. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
In a moment here, what will we hear from the president tonight? When will the president make a decision on that surveillance memo? White House communications advisor Mercedes Schlapp here to answer that. Plus, did you catch this last night? Give it a listen.
Are we going to hear from this young woman? Did she encourage her to come out?
She told her that we were in no way holding her back. that if she wanted to,
even if
should.
she comes out and she wants to complain about Hillary Clinton and say, you know, that she did me wrong.
She should say whatever she wants.
So that's a former Clinton advisor talking about a former staffer who kept his job on her 2008 campaign despite accusations of sexual harassment. He says we will hear from Clinton soon. So when is that, and what will she say? 34, we have not seen this move in some time. This is the Dow with the open 4 minutes into trading, and we are off 200 points. Now coming back just a little bit, but concerns from overseas about global growth, although Europe turned in a pretty good number, right? GDP in Europe was 2.5%. First time they've seen that.
Look at you all up on the finance.
Well, I try. So Europe had good news. Here at home, Apple did not have great news about the production for the new iPhone X. They cut the production in half. So that weighed yesterday. Now you're seeing some pressure.
Sometimes it's healthy for the stock market to take a little breather and not go up every single day.
But we love to win.
Yeah. And in this market, that's not even a full percent drop.
That's right.
Perspective is everything. President Trump preparing to deliver his first State of the Union address tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So what can we expect to hear? Joining me now, Mercedes Schlapp, White House Senior Advisor for Strategic Communications. Mercedes, good to see you this morning.
Good to see you. I don't think there's enough hairspray to keep my hair down, so I don't know. It's pretty windy over here in D.C.
I feel your pain. A breezy Washington, D.C. morning. What is the president doing right now to prep for this big night?
Well, the president has been very involved in drafting the State of the Union and making sure that obviously you're going to see him speaking directly from the heart. The president is going to be focusing on building a safe, strong, and proud America. He wants to address all Americans and talk about how we're going to be lifting up all Americans and ensuring that they have expanded opportunities, economic opportunities, also investing in our American workers. I mean, this is going to be a very strong and powerful message where he wants to be forward-looking, bipartisan, and calling Congress to take action on so much of the priorities that the president is focusing on. He's also going to take the opportunity to talk about his accomplishments. Obviously, last year was a very historic year in terms of passing the tax cut law and the benefits that we've already seen in our economy from over 250 companies providing bonuses or increasing their wages for their employees, having companies saying they're going to bring back business to America. And as the president says, we're open for business. And so this is the renewed optimism that we have been looking for so long in America, where it benefits all Americans. And that's going to be that message of hope and strength that we'll see coming out tonight from the State of the Union.
We expect it to be a very big moment for this president, and you and other members of the president's team have said he plans to unify, particularly members of Congress there that are still so divided. How specifically can you tell us that the president plans to do that tonight?
Well, first of all, I want to say, one of the biggest components always in the State of the Union is the gallery of guests. And what the president's going to hone in on is about the everyday American hero and what they're giving back to their communities. And those are the people that we work for. We work for the forgotten men and women. And so I think it's a reminder to both Democrats and Republicans that this is not about politics or party. This is about the American agenda. And so the president is working for the American people. And what he's presenting in so many cases, and when you're talking about infrastructure and investing in our roads and bridges and in our workers, when you're talking about immigration reform, he is reaching across the aisle. He wants to work with the Democrats to get the results done. And at the same time, he's going to talk about the fact that it's important that because of what he's pushed forward in terms of his economic vision for America, that of deregulation and job creation, that we're seeing the benefits. And we want to make sure that we deliver that message to the American people.
And he'll be able to deliver that message, but not to some Democrats, Mercedes, who say they're just not going to show up. There's a lengthy list now, including Maxine Waters, a Democrat who says the president doesn't deserve her attention. Frederica Wilson, another rep, says that it would be an embarrassment for her to be seen there. John Lewis from Georgia, citing Trump's recent comments about Haiti and other African nations. Barbara Lee, I mean, we've got pictures up of these Democrats who are planning to boycott the president's first State of the Union Union address. What does the president think about that?
Well, we call that political theater. It's political stunts by these congressmen who obviously want to have a soundbite in the media, because what the president is focused on is about that, single mom in middle America, or that hard-working construction worker who is now going to get a pay check increase and be able to save for their child's education. I mean, this is about real stories. This is about talking about the progress we're making in America. This is about defending our homeland and national security, rebuilding America, rebuilding our military, which, as we know, should be very much of a bipartisan issue.
And you think they would at least want to show up, right? So I have to move on to a couple other things. I know it's a busy morning for you, but Andrew McCabe is out. That making huge news yesterday. And then we later saw video of the DOJ's Rod Rosenstein and Christopher Wray from the FBI leaving the White House after the announcement of Andrew McCabe's departure from the FBI was made public. What were they doing at the White House?
Well, I'm not aware of that in particular, what happened in that meeting. What I can tell you is that the president was not involved in the decision-making process of McCabe. This was something that I would refer you to the FBI.
So the president, what was his reaction then when he did find out, if he was not involved in his removal from the FBI? What did he think when he found that out?
Well, again, the president has full confidence in his FBI director, Christopher Wray. He's a man of integrity. As we know, the president has been vocal and been concerned about political interference of some in the FBI who have made certain announcements and made certain suggestions. So again, there has been concern about the political interference. When it comes to McCabe, that obviously was a decision made by the FBI.
And Mercedes, lastly, the House committee last night had a debate and a vote. They decided to release and make public this very controversial memo. It now sits on the president's desk. Does he intend to make that memo public?
Well, the president's consulting with his national security team, with his legal team, to decide the next steps and the next course of action.
Do you know which way he's leaning on that?
Again, the president has been consulting with his team. He has 5 days to make the decision. As we know, the president wants transparency. He's been concerned with the abuses of FISA and what it has done in terms of infringing in the civil liberties of our law-abiding citizens. So again, the president has 5 days to make this decision.
A huge day for you, the president, and the White House, and this country. Mercedes Schlapp, we thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you so much.
And we'll all be watching tonight.
Thank you.
As we await a decision on that answer, Trey Gowdy says the Democrats have been stonewalling this operation.
My Democrat colleagues didn't want us to find this information. They did everything they could to keep us from finding this information. It'll be embarrassing to Adam Schiff once people realize the extent to which he went to keep them from learning any of this.
So what is in it, and will you be able to see it? House Intel Committee member Brad Wenstrup, he has seen it. He voted in favor to make it public. He will explain his decision next, live.
Today, this committee voted to put the president's personal interest, perhaps their own political interest, above the national interest, in denying themselves even the ability to hear from the department and the FBI. When you have a deeply flawed person in the Oval Office, that flaw can infect the whole of government, and today, tragically, it infected our committee.
So the House Intelligence Committee's ranking Democrat Adam Schiff there slamming the panel's vote last night to release a classified memo to the public, which reportedly details surveillance abuses by the FBI. Ohio Republican Brad Wenstrup, member of that committee, with me now. And sir, good morning to you, and thanks for coming back here.
You bet.
What's in the memo?
Well, let's start with process. First of all, you just played a clip from Mr. Schiff. And the fact of the matter is that the FBI director, Wray, has seen the memo before we had the vote. We also had two people from the FBI go through it, one an analyst and the other one that's very familiar with the FISA court. The memo is about the FISA court process. It's a process that you can look up. It's free information to see how the process should carry out. We put forth a memo because we thought it was time for the American people, and at least our colleagues to start with, to see what has been going on in the government. We are the representatives of the people.
Do you think, Congressman, that this program has been abused?
Well, I think that we certainly have some eye-raising things that we have seen take place. I think that the process has not been carried out to the intent that it was supposed to, and I think that it's made for some bad decisions along the way. Sometimes there may be the possibility of information that's been withheld as the process goes forward. And so this is what we want to clarify. We want the American people to have eyes on this so that they have some idea of what we've been dealing with. And I will say this, Bill, we voted unanimously. Although the Democrats voted against us releasing this memo to our colleagues, we voted unanimously to let their memo go to our colleagues. We are trying to be fair, professional, informative, transparent, and get to the truth.
Now, do you think once the memo goes public, assuming that it does, right? You voted in favor. Let's see what the White House does with it. Does this clarify the Russia matter? Or does it further cloud all matters Russia?
I don't think it clarifies it completely. I think it's just one component of it, and it has to do with the court process. And that's one of the things we want to bring